All right. So next up in our grooming sessions, this is Sock Monkey. Sock Monkey is Lotus's daughter, Jezebel's granddaughter. Now, if you've been watching our Meet the Goat series, which is a playlist, assuming I can figure that out, then you know that I've been doing kind of a series of chat while I groom goats. And we started with Jezebel. We moved to Lotus, talked about the improvements that we have from Jezebel to Lotus in terms of genetics, in terms of show quality, etc. And now I have Sock Monkey, Saki. Saki is Lotus's daughter. She's from a different father, of course, because there were different needs at the time that we bred Lotus. Cashmere coming out. But let's talk about Sock for a second. Sock is young. She is about a year old right now. She is still growing a little bit, and her coat will take another couple of years to really maximize. It takes a long time for these coats to grow. It's why we don't shear them or cut them yet, although ideally I would love to get to a point that they're used as a fiber animal. Right now it's just not possible. So she is not at full maturity by any means. She needs time to get to full maturity before I can assess really her coat in terms of full overall quality, and then what I need to do with her genetically, or at least with her progeny, right? Her breeding program. But let's talk about the improvements from Lotus to her. So size is one, right? So you can see she's a much smaller goat. Smaller overall in terms of height and stature, but she still retains the length of body. She still retains the ability to have kids naturally, to stand with a nice width, to carry kids, right, in a nice sized body. She is not dwarfed, which is a specific technical term. She is smaller. How did she get smaller? And significantly so, by the way. Well, I bred Lotus to a smaller buck. And that small genetics came across, which is fabulous. So a couple things that Sock has going right now for her is she's showing signs of bangs. They're getting there. They're still little, but they're there. She's got cheek muffs. Again, she needs to mature into them. They're not full yet. And she's got the beard that this line carries pretty easily. She has much less cashmere undercoat, which is always a positive. And her coat texture is much softer, silkier, just overall more structurally like silk, which is the ideal for their coat, than Jezebel or Lotus's, right? So Jezebel's texture was a little bit coarse. It was still fine. It was still silky, but it was silky with a coarser hand. Lotus's was better, and Sock's is better. So those improvements are just one generation. The length of coat, again, I can't really assess right now because she's not mature. It's still growing. It'll be, one, she needs to have kids. The hormones help that hair growth, weirdly enough. Two, she needs to continue to mature. So it is a long process of assessing these goats before I put them in a breeding program, before I pick a buck that they're going to breed to. There's just a lot of decision making that happens when it comes to these goats. But Sock, she's a good goat, huh? And you may be wondering about my naming conventions, my nomenclature. How do I name my goats? A lot of thought and a lot of effort. I'm not very creative right? Sometimes a name is just there and announces itself. Other times, gosh, it takes forever to figure it out. But I stick with one thing, and that is every year they're named with a name that starts with the tattoo letter assignment of the year. So let me explain that a little bit. Goat registries run on an annual letter, right? So the year Sock was born, the letter was S. Every goat would be assigned a tattoo number that's S1, S2, S3, and it's in conjunction with your farm name. So that way, the goat is an individual recognized goat. I don't tattoo my goats anymore because I microchip them, but we do still assign tattoo letters, and that's critical for registry, right? As an individual unique identifier. So she was born in an S year. Therefore, she had to have an S name. Jezebel was born in a J year. Lotus was born in an L year. The nice thing about that is I can pretty much figure out the age of any group almost instantaneously, and I don't have to think about it. I know what year they were born, or at least I can, do some quick thinking, right, and make a pretty good guess as to how old they are. That helps me a lot when I'm looking at assessing them, right? When I'm laying hands on them, are they an older goat, a younger goat? I don't have to think about, are they going to be retired? Are they going to be in the breeding program? Because I know their age. I know when they entered the breeding program. I know when they exited. It just makes it a lot easier for me. When I first started out with goats, I thought for sure I was going to have, a really cute theme, and all of my goats over the years would be on that same theme. And I love farms that are able to do that. Farms that are able to name all their goats after microbrews, or name all their goats after fantasy characters, and really stick to that theme. I absolutely adore it. I can't do it. I'm just not that creative. Oh, I know. We're almost done already, kiddo. I just can't do it. I'm not that creative. I'm not that good. I thought forever about what our theme should be. Of course, your theme has to have enough name variation to be able to use it for years and years and years. And darn it, I was just not that good. So I made the decision to go with sticking with the letter, right? So this particular year, 2025 kids were letter T. She's a 2024 kid. See how easy that is for me to remember? Next year will not be letter U. Letter U is one of those letters that is not used because it's too challenging to distinguish from other letters, right? So O, Q, U are letters that aren't used. So next year is a W year, I think. Maybe it's a V year. I should probably know that before I start to talk about it. But anyway, so you get the gist, right? Which means every year I have to think about names that suit the kids that year that start with the letter. I had a big group of kids in 2024. One of my biggest years ever. I had 13 kids. That's a lot for us. This year I had 5, just to put it in perspective. So we typically have more like, maybe 5 to 10 maximum a year. Last year I had 13. And as I was assessing goats and starting to come up with names, Sock Monkey had always been at the back of my head as such a cute name for a goat. And I look at their personalities, right? And I don't just randomly assign a name to a goat. They actually have to have the personality that matches their name. So in this case, after much thought, she was possibly Smurfette. She was possibly going to be something else silly. And Sock Monkey just stuck. She was a little bit of a monkey. She was always flying around the barn, just having a grand old time. She's one of those goats that just doesn't have a care. in the world. She will make friends with anybody. She'll talk a little bit, as you heard. And she's just in general a nice goat. So Sock Monkey it is. And then, of course, everything gets shortened. So she's Saki. But her official registered name is Racing for Home Sock Monkey. And that's how we name. So they finish her up, and she's pretty small and easy to do because she's young. I thought last time around with Lotus's video, I promised to talk about some of my grooming equipment. So she's on a grooming stand. The stand is a manual winch stand. It's a scissor lift. I love it. It's big, it's heavy, it's way more stand than I need in terms of the size of my goats, right? It's really designed for a much larger goat. But the fact that I can get these goats off the ground, the fact that I can get them up to my working level, and the fact that I don't have to be bent over them while I do this became just critical for my personal health. So is a grooming stand a necessity? Yes. Does it need to be fancy? No. It needs to be something where you can get a goat to stand still long enough to groom them, do their hooves, and it can be at any level you want. It can be ground level. It can be, a tall stand with a ramp that walks up it. Hell, if you want, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Heck, if you want, you can give them stairs. You can decide you're just going to lift your goats up, and good for you if you can do that. So grooming stand is a necessity. Fancy grooming stand is not. A lot of people make their own out of wood, and there's nothing wrong with that. For years, I used a small wrought iron portable stand. In fact, that stand is still in my trailer. It's my show stand now. It goes with me everywhere. I just found that I needed, because I groom frequently, every weekend, I needed the ability to not be killing my back. And that's just really how the fancy stand came about. I'm not going to recommend any of these products. And by the way, anything I talk about, I have no sponsorships. I have no affiliate links. If I give you a link or I tell you about a product, it's because I'm using it and I like it. Nobody's paying me anything. Nobody's paying me anything for any of this. This is all just for you. So the other things I'm using as I groom is a couple of different types of brushes. Standard pin brush. This is a human brush, right? It's just a pin brush. And it's great for surface. It doesn't really get down deep, but it does the surface. And when you're dealing with the goats, right, taking that surface and getting the top hairs kind of straightened up and cleaned up first is always nice. Then I use a slicker brush. I used to use a Furminator brush. I actually loved the Furminator brush for a long time, but then I found this We Love Doodles slicker brush, and now that's the brand I'm using. And I really like it. It's held up really well, right? I groomed 14 goats. Bucks are hard on brushes. These are a little bit more expensive than the Furminators, but I love the way they work. I love the way they feel in my hand, and they've held up almost better than the Furminator, frankly. And then I tried this thing, and this was one of those expensive professional grooming things. It's still a slicker brush. It has the same purpose as the We Love Doodles brush. It pulls out any knots and mats and undercoat, and it does a great job, but it's kind of harsh. It's kind of stiff. So I like it for certain purposes, but I prefer the We Love Doodles because it's a softer slicker. It's a little bit easier and gentler on their bodies. I do use all three, but I could live without that last one pretty easily. I use it because I have it and I paid way too much money for it. Freaking expensive. And so I'll use it until it dies. But frankly, then it'll just be the doodles and that pin brush. I do have combs, and when we're show season and we're really, really prepping, we can get into combs and rakes and the fact that I clean, with baby wipes, and we do a lot more prep. But for standard grooming, those are my three tools. And then the conditioner that I'm spraying on them is Mane and Tail Detangler and Conditioner. It's a leave-in product. It's a light spray. You can see it just kind of surface gets the top going, and it keeps that surface cleaner. It's almost like a little Rain-X, right? Keeps stuff rolling off of it, getting it ready for the next groom, prevents it from matting up when they rub against the fence. And because she's a small goat, that is it for Miss Saki. And she's letting you know she's done too. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.